Do you feel the world is broken?
We do.
Do you feel the shadows deepen?
We do.
But do you know that all the dark won't stop the light from getting through?
We do.
Do you wish that you could see it all made new?
We do. Is all creation groaning? It is a new creation coming? Is the glory of the Lord to be the light within our midst? Is it good that we remind ourselves of this?
Is anyone worthy? Is anyone whole? Is anyone able to break the seal and open the scroll? The Lion of Judah, who conquered the grave, he is David's brood and the Lamb who died to ransom the slave.
Is he worthy?
Is he worthy of all blessing and honor and glory?
Is he worthy of this? He is. Does the Father truly love us?
He does.
Does the Spirit move among us?
He does.
Jesus on the Son of
He does.
Does our
Have you ever wondered how to go about your research? Have you thought that there is no possibility of moving further from a point? Are you experiencing a lack of communication with an advisor or research colleague? How about time management in doing research? How to expose yourself to an international research community? At Spice Adventist University, we answer your queries in the Office of Research and Innovation. The Research Office is prompt in assisting, evaluating, encouraging, and accelerating impact from thought process to your research papers. The Office of Research and Innovation assists all the divisions at Spice Adventist University, promoting quality research papers that undergoes rigorous reviews following SAU standard to produce research papers worth publishing. A brand new scholarly journal is in the process of.
The research department helped show me how to find credible sources online relating to my topic. And I thank the research personnel for taking extra time to help me with my doubts and queries. It was very helpful and beneficial for me.
The office assists research work among students and the teachers who need assistance on how to go about their research. The office facilitates scholarly engagement in doing research writing, publishing, and presentations.
It was helpful to have someone I could ask all the doubts I had about everything from big to small. I received guidance that helped to shape my thought process and to express it correctly. Also, I received resources in the form of books and references. And lastly, I did not have to feel afraid or hesitant in any way that my questions may sound silly, and I could talk in an open and free manner.
The development of the community and a nation depends on its continuing education and research progress in all the study disciplines. Hence, our research should attempt international comparison in terms of standard and quality. The Research and Innovation Office strives to develop innovative ideas that can incorporate with the educational policies and institutional structure, facilitating a quality research culture. Welcome to be a part of us. All are welcome to communicate with us, and we are here to assist you in your endeavor to an academic journey.
Thank you. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to each one of you. Welcome. Greetings to you all from Spice Adventist University for the second day of Virtual International Conference on Scientific Research Findings 2021. I'm confident that you had a wonderful time yesterday. I enjoyed, I was able to think more. I learned new things, and it was an exciting journey. I hope and pray that today's presentations will also be beneficial for each one of us. Thank you for joining us today. And I hope that you all will be blessed. At this time, I would like to invite Dr. Jessin Israel, the director of the Ellen G. White Center at Spice Adventist University. Sir, over to you for opening prayer.
Shall we bow our heads in prayer? Heavenly Father, we give you glory, honor, and praises. We praise you for our Lord Jesus Christ, in whom are all treasures of wisdom and understanding. And in your providence, you have gathered us from different parts of the world to present, discuss, explore, and understand the trends and what is happening in the world. And as we proceed through this conference today, we thank you for what you have done yesterday. And we ask that your leading will be felt even more today. Bless each presenter and the moderators and all of us, that we may all gain a blessing out of this conference. For we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, sir, for your prayer. I also would like to welcome our respected Vice Chancellor who is here. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Now, at this time, I would like to introduce you to our moderator for the first session, Professor Daniel Dayanand Rao. I hope you are ready with the first session. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. Before Dr. Professor Rao begins, we have a special song by Mr. Ashon Shimre. Meanwhile, Sir Dr. Dayanand Rao, please be ready. Thank you so much.
The battle is almost over. Your strength is almost gone. You've been away for so long now. Don't you think it's time for you to come home? Your body is badly beaten. By this war of life you fall. Lay down your weapon of anger. Don't you know your victory's already bought by the blood of Jesus, the hope in Christ, Calvary's cross welcomes the lost with arms open wide. Won't you do what you know you can? Open up your aching heart, let forgiveness in. It's time you learn to love again. You've been through so much of this hurting. The anger is deep down inside. You feel like the word of Jesus, the hope in Christ, Calvary's cross welcomes the lost with arms open wide. Won't you do what you know you can? Open up your aching heart, let forgiveness in. It's time you learn to love again. Won't you do what you know you can? Open up your aching heart, let forgiveness in. It's time you learn to love again. It's time you learn to love again.
I am indeed delighted this afternoon to introduce to you three scholars who will be presenting to us the very best aspects of their research endeavors, what I would like to call as the very essence of their research findings, the scientific research findings. Each topic is not only fascinating, but also very valuable in nature. Therefore, I wish to give each of them maximum time, maybe 10 minutes for their presentation and 5 minutes for question answer session. If we keep to these time limits and constraints, I think we'll be doing well. The first candidate is Mr. Hemengamon Karsinyang. He is a PhD candidate from Martin Luther Christian University. His topic is traditional forms of recreation and occupational stress among the tribal primary teachers of Meghalaya, a study on the pilot findings. If I were to describe Mr. Hame, as he is affectionately known to us, he is one who is pleasant at all times and one who is committed to Ellen G. White teachings on health principles and temperance. I am very happy that Mr. Hame is with us and he is able to present to us his research findings on this fascinating topic, traditional forms of recreation and occupational stress among the tribal primary teachers of Meghalaya, pilot findings. Mr. Heme, the time is yours. Second presenter is an accomplished scholar, Dr. Rimfulang Rimbai from Northeastern Hill University. I think she has something very relevant for our consideration this evening. Education beyond face-to-face mode, values and protective habit of e-learning. The third presenter is Ranjit Kingston Gladstone, a student from India, a student from Spicer Memorial College, a student who has associated with Spicer College for many years before going for further studies to IAS. Ranjit Kingston Gladstone is currently at the Adventist International Institute of Advanced Studies, Philippines, will be defending during this month his thesis on curriculum and instruction and instructional technology. He has, to his credit, co-authored a book, authored chapters in 2 books, and is still writing chapters in 2 other books. He has also published research in international peer-reviewed and presented papers in international and national conferences. His research interest is on research orientations and social problems. While introducing Mr. Ranjit Kingston Gladstone, it is not possible to be emotionally neutral. How strange it is. We have been away from each other for many years, and yet by coincidence or by providential means, we are together on this virtual platform. I wish each of the presenters the very best as they make the presentation at this time. First, we have Hamingomon Karsin Nyang. The time is yours.
Thank you so much, sir, for those kind words of introduction. First of all, I'd like to thank God for this opportunity to be able to share this research findings and, of course, the organizers of this conference. I wish God's blessing on all of us as we look forward to doing more research and to solve certain social problems in the society. My topic this afternoon or morning or evening for some of us is entitled Traditional Forms of Recreation and Occupational Stress Among the Tribal Primary Teachers of Meghalaya. These are pilot findings. As we all know, teaching profession is considered one of the most stressful profession. And studies show that there is a global spread of teacher-related stress, and it has affected the well-being and keenness to work on this profession when compared to other working population. Teachers have high risk of psychological distress and lower levels of job satisfaction. And occupational stress not only affects the individual, but the organization as well. So this is just a little bit about the occupational stress that affects teachers. The objectives of this study is, I have 4 objectives. The first one is to determine the levels of occupational stress among the tribal primary teachers in Shillong, India. The other objective is to identify the demographic profile, both social and occupational characteristics of primary teachers who are experiencing high level of occupational stress. The third objective is to determine the strategies which are currently used by primary teachers in coping with occupational stress. And the last or the fourth objective is to document traditional forms of recreation among the Khasis of East Khasi Hills, Meghalaya, and the extent of the use for managing occupational stress among the primary teachers. We'll go straight to the findings since we have very limited time. For the first finding, that is for objective 1, we can see from this table here, the number of teachers that have collected, since it's just a pilot study, is only 69. But the results that has come is quite significant, and it is important for us to understand how the problem is at large. If we look at the level of stress, the researcher has developed a tool to measure the levels of stress based on the assessment that's being done. And we can see from here, there is a moderate level of stress among the tribal population, and some portion of it are experiencing high stress. Now, if you look at the means scales, or the mean of the levels of stress, it is 29.81 with a standard deviation of 9.46, and the maximum and minimum values between 5 and 1 respectively. If you look at the stress scores, 0 to 15 is considered low stress, and 16 to 39 is moderate stress. So if you look at the teachers, there is 75% of teachers who experience moderate stress between 16 to 37 on the scores. And a percentage of 25% experience high stress, which is a score of 38 to 60 on the occupational stress scale. So 75% of primary teachers report moderate stress and 25 report high stress. Now, if you look at objective 2, that is to find the characteristics of these tribal primary teachers, we can see that the age group between 26 to 30 have a mean score of 34.8, which is under the moderate stress level, which is covers a percentage of 28% of the total number of teachers that were being measured. And also the age group between 46 above also have a high mean score of 32.28. That is a comparison between the age group and the stress level, or the association between age group and stress level. The next feature or characteristics is the salary range, or the next factor. Salary range and stress level. We see that those teachers that receive a salary below 10,000 experience or have higher mean scores of occupational stress. Although they're still moderate, but they report a higher mean score comparing to the others who receive more than 10,000. If we looked at the other factor, that is the years of experience and stress levels, we see that those teachers that have years of experience between 4 to 6 years have a mean score of 33.46, which is a moderate stress level. And comparing to the others, there are some between 10 to 12 that has 32.5, which is also moderate. But comparatively, all of these teachers have a similar stress level, that is the moderate stress levels. Then for the other factor in objective 2, that is the type of schools and stress level, there are 4 types of schools that are being recorded, or that responded. We have the private aided, unaided, the private aided, Department of Education, which is from the government, and the SSA schools. And from this table, we can see that most teachers who belong to the Department of Education, that is government schools, report 39.42 mean score, and this is all under moderate. Then for objective 3, that is the strategies, finding out the strategies that teachers use. These are some of the findings from the pilot study. Some teachers report, doing physical work like household work to cope up with the stress that they have at work. Some of them are involved in hiking. Some listen to music. Some are involved in playing games, exercising, getting social support, and communication with the parents of the students. So these are some of the strategies that teachers have used to cope with the occupational stress. One of the interviews, a teacher reported, "I work household work so that I will just forget my stress." A female teacher responded. Another teacher responded, "We should share the problem stress with our parents and friends in order to cope with stress." Another responded. Now for objective 4, the last objective, these are the findings that I found, the traditional forms of recreation. I will just share just a few, although I've gathered about 20 plus traditional forms of recreation, but I'll just be sharing a few. One of the first is under the dance category. It is called Shatsuk. If we translate it, it is translated as dance for peace and mind. It is practiced in a village in East Khasi Hills called Smith, and mostly it's practiced by female or women. The other one is the Siat Knam Karong Birya, which is archery if it's translated. It is a game and practiced in most villages, but mostly practiced in Mauplang village and Tersat, and practiced by males. Another category is a game category. We call it the Tet Malai Shito or the Tet Deng Hai. It is a game that most kids play. Even adults are involved. If we translate it in English, it's called hitting sticks. It's practiced in the villages of Sorankam, Sora, and can be both practiced or played by male and female. The other very popular game that I believe some of those who belong to Meghalaya will know this game, it's called the Mau Point. If we translate it, it's called Flat Stones. Okay, it's a game. It's practiced. The village that I took, it's mostly practiced in all the villages, but the village that I took it from is from Thantinro. And mostly it is, even male can practice, but mostly played by the female. The other category is a game again. It's called Leskoi. If we translate it in English, it's called dodgeball. It's practiced in a village called Nongkrem. Can be both played by male and female. The other game is called the Maukor Katya. If we translate, there's the closest translation to English is the Mankala, although it's an Arabic word. It's a game practiced in Linyong, Umkaber village, and can be both played by male and female. The next game is Yaring Sai Telai. Translated, it's tug of war, practiced in Tantinro and Maulum, could be both played by male and female. Now, the other recreation, or it's under the category of game, it's called Sottingko. If translated, it is called hopscotch. It's a game practiced in Shillong and other parts of East Khasi Hills. And mostly female play this game. The next is also a game. It's called Kinjat Tin Ne Jok, which translated is kicking a tin or a jug, practiced in Linyong, mostly played by male. The other is Siat Marble, shooting marbles, it translated, and it's a game practiced in Shillong and other parts of East Khasi Hills, and mostly practiced by or played by male. The other category is on the music. It's called Duidara. It's a wooden musical instrument. If we have to compare it, it's similar to a guitar, although it has very different features compared to a guitar. It's mostly practiced in certain parts of East Khasi Hills, but the village where I took it from is from Sora, and mostly male play the instrument. The other instrument is also a music instrument. It's called a maing. It is a bamboo whistling instrument taken from Tangshalai. It's mostly played by male. The other is, it is a stationary rock. It's called Maukor Shangtat. If translated, it is resting rocks found in the village of Sora and Mauplang and practiced or being used by both male and female. Next one is Khwai Dokha, or it's translated into fishing. It is a hobby practiced in many villages in East Khasi Hills and could be done both by male and female. Then the last is the Bam Khanashnong, which translated is community picnic, practiced in all parts of East Khasi Hills, especially during the festive seasons, and both male and female are involved. I'd just like to show a little highlights of the recreation, with some pictures that we all have an idea of these recreation, the traditional forms of recreation. Just a few I'll show. The first one I would like to show is the Maukor Katya, or the Mankala, which is an Arabic word. The Maukor Katya is a game that is played by two players. Flat stone slab is used as a base. You can either have 6 or 7 holes, depending on which place you're practicing it, on each side. And in each hole, 5 small stones are kept. The game starts with one player moving the 5 stones from one hole, keeping one stone in one hole at a time in all the holes. And this process is repeated by the other player. The aim of this game is to get as much stones as possible by emptying a hole and taking the stones which are left on the next hole. What's important is this next part, how it reduces stress and how it will help teachers. One of the female elders said, this game helps to reduce stress a lot. When we were younger and played this game, we just forget everything and really have a good feeling. The next iteration is the Mao Point, or translated as flat stones. The Mao Point is a game that is played by multiple players divided into 2 teams. The 2 teams will either be the attackers or stackers. Attackers will throw a cloth ball to the other team who tries to stack the flat stones on top of each other until all the stones are completely stacked up. The winner will be determined if the team is able to stack up the flat stones or the attackers being able to eliminate the opponents by throwing the ball and hitting the person stacking. How it reduces stress? One of the female elders said, when we play this game, we forget our sorrows. And after, when we study, we feel we can concentrate better. To have fun and relax is great medicine, and it helps to reduce stress. I feel my brain is more relaxed when I play this game. The last one is the Maukor Shangtat, or resting rocks. As you can see in the picture here, it's a stationary place where people just come to rest. Maukor Shangtat are rocks that are carved in blocks and arranged as a resting area for people to rest who travel by foot for long distance. It is usually found in hilly areas where the journey is uphill or downhill. How it reduces stress? When we carry a heavy load, our head and shoulder hurts, and it gives stress to our body. When we arrive at the Maukor Shangtat, we feel a sense of relief, and it relaxes our head from the stress of carrying, said a female elder. Well, this is it. Thank you so much for listening.
Second presenter now, Dr. Rihanna Rambai. Yes, Doctor.
A very good afternoon, good evening, good morning to everyone who are present here. Myself, I'm Dr. Rihanna Rambai, a faculty in the Department of Education, Northeastern Hill University. And I am full of humility, and I'm really thankful, and I'm very grateful to all the, to the people who are directly or indirectly linked to the seminar, who have given me the opportunity to take part in today's seminar. Really, I have a feeling that this study of mine is quite small, and I feel very meek. But anyway, what I wanted to share with with everyone present here is that this is a small study in which the data was collected some months after the lockdown was lifted last year. And as a teacher, I felt that I just need to go to the students and really ask and inquire from them, what had they, they had faced so much difficulty during the time when lockdown had happened, and teachers were facing problems, whether we are talking about teachers at the elementary school or at the school level, college level, or university level. We had all faced problems during the pandemic, when we all had to, irrespective of whether we already had knowledge on how to teach our students through the online mode or not, we were all faced with the same thing, that we cannot reach our students in a true face-to-face mode, and we had to go to the technology, we had to go to the internet to be able to connect with them. So this is a very small study. I would say it's a very small. It's very small. However, the result of this study, after conducting the study, it had led me to go to a wider scope. I had broadened my scope of doing the academics, whereby right now I'm conducting a project in the same line on e-learning and online learning. But this project, which I am doing right now, I'm involved in this right now, is I am going to collect data from the university students. Anyway, so this is my presentation for today: Education Beyond Face-to-Face Mode, Values and Productive Habit of E-Learning. Now, if we look into directly, I'll just go into very bullet points into all the things before I come to the findings, though small, but I feel it is quite significant. So when we look into the learning system, a learning system which is based on formalized teaching, but with the help of electronic resources, that is known as e-learning. While teaching can be used in or out of the classroom, the use of computers and internet form the major component of e-learning. So recently, over the years, forget about the lockdown, forget about the pandemic. In the recent years, even in our very own place in the state of Meghalaya, even in whether we talk about school level, schools have started moving from the use of chalk and talk method to the smart classrooms. So some of the schools were, of course, the urban schools. They were equipped with a smart board and so on and so forth. So there was a movement, there was a flow from the use of the traditional of only the traditional method to the use of both the offline and the online mode in learning, in everyday classroom teaching. And so this shift, this flow was gradual. So what we have observed through all these years, it was gradual. However, when last year came, when the pandemic came, the shift was so aggressive. The students were left behind, irrespective of whether the students are in the urban setup or whether in the rural setup, whether they have technology or not, whether they have mobile or not, have they ever seen a smartphone in their life? That is not the question. But the question is that all the students, the teaching learning fraternity, the teaching learning system as a whole was pushed towards online learning. So it was quite, so that, the shift is no longer gradual now, it was so aggressive. So with the change of the mode of learning, the researcher, which is myself, I am inquisitive to know, with this, which had coming so aggressively on all of us, I would like to know whether we could derive something positive out of it, whether values could come out of this e-learning, whether proper, positive, and productive habits could come. So that is why this had led me to carry out this research, though it was small. When we look into the values, they are the part of our lifestyle priorities determined by society, family, or individual. So we could understand it is relative when we talk about values. Values, along with their accompanying needs and worldviews, are universal in the sense that they apply across geographies and cultures. Therefore, value describe and provide a means of talking about what is important to us, and they exist and have meaning only within a web of our values, not in isolation. Then, it came to my mind when I was working, because I had worked with VIA previously, 2 to 3 studies I had done and I had published in relation to value in action. Though this particular work, which I'm doing right now, is on the, I'm working for its publication. Anyway, since I had already worked in this line through the VIA, or the values in action, which was the work of Martin Seligman and Christopher Peterson. So I thought, because they had thoroughly researched and had drawn out certain values for adults, for youths, and so on. So I thought that, if I am going to question the students on what kind of values they have learned, through e-learning, or what kind of values they have adapted, so I thought I should also see, in line with the VIA, if there is any values which is in line with the VIA, because VIA is quite productive. VIA looks for character strength of individual, and each one of us, young, old, whether we are young or old, we all have these characteristics. There are 24 of them. So these 24 characteristics, we all have the 24 characteristics, but the only difference is to what degree we have them. To some of us, we might have, 1 or 2 to a higher degree, and 1 or 2 not so big, not so high in our characteristics and in our behavior, in our, day-to-day life. But for some, other values we might have which is in very high degree or high level. So, we look into the VIA, it really looks into the character strength of individual. It looks for unique skills, talents, interests, and so on. So these character strength, as I said, was by Peterson and Seligman back in 2004. Seligman himself was a father of positive psychology, which deals with studies in relation to happiness, to all these positive traits, which psychology had not looked into. So it was in 2004 which Seligman had started this work on positive psychology. Then, of course, the classification of character strength were like this. So it has 6 core values, and under these 6 core values, there are 24 character strength, the strength which I already had stated earlier. So, these main virtues were the wisdom and knowledge, courage, humanity, justice, temperance, and transcendence. So, and on these 24 over here in the third column are the 24 strength. So I thought, had these students, will the students be able, or will I have certain values of the students or certain habits of the students which could fall also in the VIE. So anyway, when we come to productive habits, as we all understand that habits are defined as actions that are triggered automatically in response to contextual cues that have been associated with their performance. So if it is repetitive over time, if it is used as frequently, it becomes a habit. So in other words, in what I can operate this particular term over here is that I operate or define it as habits that are productive for the users, and the users here are the students. So with all this, with understanding of a little bit of the concept here, I will just go to the methodology, where the research question asks is what are the values associated with e-learning. Of course, I only have one objective. It's a very small study to find out the values associated with e-learning. And the tool used is a simple questionnaire. It's a simple questionnaire which have only 2 items, and the participants were the postgraduate students of 2 courses of the academic year 19-2021. So as soon as they entered, they had a 1 semester of face-to-face mode, but till right now they're in the 4th semester, and these students have maximum of their learning had been through online mode, and there were 95 of them. They data collected by using the online medium because we could not reach them physically through face-to-face mode. And of course, analysis, I'd use content analysis. Then the findings were like this. When they had replied back to me, I had used the content, I had put them, I had coded them and put them into different categories. And since there were 2 items only in my tool, what I did was I had just classified and categorized them under the different heads. Though I had asked a question only on values, but what came from them, I had put them into 4 to 5 categories. And one is the values. So it was learned from their experience and from what they shared with me that that these are what they had learned through online learning, through what the use of Google Classroom, the use of Google Meet, the use of Zoom, and so on and so forth. So self-discipline was there. The students felt that they have better self-discipline because they had the freedom to sit or not to sit for the online class, or to do or not to do the assignment. However, they felt that they are better self-disciplined. They were better educational values, moral values, social values. They were more helpful to each other. So they amongst themselves, since they have the WhatsApp group, if one student do not have the material which we refer to for a particular class, they would share. So they were more helpful to each other. They were more punctual. There was consistency in the way they were trying to learn. There was commitment amongst the students. There was respect for amongst themselves, and there was respect for the teachers as well. And of course, there is sincerity. This is what I learned. Then I had learned also through their answers that there were productive habits, such as they interacted better, they were more constructive, there was better time management, communication was there. So the e-learning was more flexible. So they had learned that when we interact through e-learning, it was more flexible. There was more self-awareness, that there was intrinsic motivation, a motivation which comes from within. It was more accessible. If there is proper network, it is more accessible, productive, there was better collaboration, participation, eagerness. They listened carefully. There was proper utilization of any materials or anything which was introduced through this kind of a mode. Self-learning was there, confidence was there. They could interact with the teachers better, when they were, in the virtual mode rather than the face-to-face mode. So there was a feeling of togetherness. When one is missing, they would interact with each other and tell that this class will happen. The class monitors were very, very sincere. They were very, very responsible. And of course, there was self-study and engagement. Then I was curious to know if I could derive some of those 24 traits out of the VIA, but anyway, 20 of them came. So I was like, it was really surprised me that really, if we look into the VIA strength, this is what the students has learned through e-learning. These are their own words. These are what their experiences and what they had shared with me. So, being imaginative, open-minded, the courage was there. They were optimistic, creative. They could think critically. They have the courage. There was an act of kindness. Leadership qualities were there. They could see in e-learning platform. There was trustworthiness, responsibility. They were more responsible. There was honesty, encouragement, discipline, enjoy. There was humor also. When we think, in the virtual world, maybe humor will not be there, but it was quite enjoyable. So, and then it was learning and of course teamwork. Then I had thought that maybe, there are these other things, I could not fit them anywhere. Then I had put them under virtues, where the students had displayed these different terms to the more excellent degree than what they had experienced before. So there was online etiquette, there was self-reliance, patience. They were more patient. There were students, who had, we have students from Nagaland and Mizoram. There was one student had called me and was so patient. She would wait for evening to come and would go to a particular hilltop and would send assignments from that hilltop because the network was better. From that particular point, point and on a particular time of the day. So in this way, they had developed patience and tolerance and sensibility, and of course there was also endurance. And they have also I had identified that there were some skills. They were better, they were competent, there was novelty in them, they were more assertive, and they were customized learning and those things. So these were the findings which had really made me happy when I had analyzed the data and I had brought it out in this. And I was looking for a platform where I could do this. I'm happy that I'm able to share with this group the findings of my study. So these were others, which they thought that maybe there was, some of them said there were better health values when we do online. So I don't know how to relate to that because I did not really conduct the interview. But anyway, if I could get back to the students, I will inquire. Then there was better confidentiality and freedom, and of course there was a release of stress also in some way if we learn through e-learning, they stated. So in conclusion, I would say that values, irrespective of the situation which we face, irrespective of the circumstance, this values transcends through these situations. So whether it's a pandemic or not, whether students are faced with so many difficulties, like I said, some of them do not have smartphones. Their parents have to afford one for them so that they could interact, they could write their exams, and so on and so forth. And then for some participants, though the circumstance may be grim, yet they had related well to the situation. So all those values had been able to to be derived from the situation. However, I still feel that this study is limited, as we need to to explore in so many ways. I'm happy that from this study I had been able to apply for a project, and of course I did get. And the paper concludes that education beyond face-to-face mode, that is e-learning, also bring its values and productive habits among the students of the postgraduate level. Maybe
Thank you,
if we
Doctor.
could do a study
Your
on the others.
presentation was excellent.
Thank you,
We'll
sir.
come to the question answer session a little later on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
May I invite Mr. Ranjit Kingston Gladstone to make his presentation. Gladstone, the time is yours.
Yes, sir. Getting it,
Unmute.
sir. Just a second. Okay. Hope you can hear me.
Yes, sir.
All right. Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to one and all who are present over there. The paper that I have to present is entitled Multicultural Students' Relationship in an International Higher Education Institution Residential Setup, a Case Study. You may see a link right under the topic, which takes you to the paper which I had already published in December 2020 in an international peer review journal. So since it is accessible to you, I will not be getting into all the details of the study. However, I will be getting into the findings. But I also have a heart to share the technical part of it, the research methodology, how it went through from the research design, how it went through from the beginning till the end. I would like to introduce to you the institution that I come from. Okay, looks like there is a technical gift. We'll move on to the introduction. Well, as you all know, unity is diversity in the vision of many institutions and organizations to bring about peace, especially in an international institution where many culture meets. There is always a lookout for peace because there is diversity. And place like Spicer Adventist University had a long experience of having people from different diverse cultures coming together, for which we always look forward to have peace among our students as well as the faculty. Now, the statement of the problem is when various educational units design activities to integrate cultural diversity, are there institutional policies to help embed into institutional culture into this diversity? Most often, the student does not see the institutional priority for multicultural interaction and growth, and they may guide the sensation of integration. The purpose of the study is to attempt to provide for multicultural students relationship with each other in an international higher education institution in the Philippines. The study will unearth new relational practices among the different cultural groups, best practices in an Adventist higher education institution, and contribution to the theory model of Berry's structural model of mutual adjustment. According to Miles 2009, there are 7 types of research gap, upon which I have identified 2 research gaps for my study. One is the theoretical gap and the knowledge gap. Now, the research question based on the need was what are the advantages, what are the disadvantages, and what are the recommendations for the institutions catering to multicultural students in their residential setup, their relationship in the residential setup. Now, for the literature review process, Joyner, Rouse, and Gladstone's framework was used to have a broad scan over the literature, from which we had the focused review. Upon that, we had the comprehensive critique, which formed the review of related literature towards the study. And also, there was some research agenda of IS, that is Adventist International Institute of Higher Education Institution, which was met through these 5 areas from this research. The theoretical framework, I did use social interaction theory, social identity status theory, and Bennett and Berry's model for the development of intercultural sensitivity and also mutual adjustment. Now, for this study, I used qualitative research design. And why? Because it seeks to understand the sense that people construct their views from their experience and their interactions they have with their environment. And also here, the researcher is the primary tool for data collection. Also, when you look into the suitability of this qualitative research, it is an exploratory study, and it requires the hidden concepts to be brought out through discussions and through various engagement with the respondents. The philosophical underpinnings for this study include interpretivism and social constructivism, where interpretivism, it develops patterns of meaning from the responses of the participants, and also the social construction, it seeks to understand the reality from the participants from their point of view. And why case study design? Because this has a case which has a phenomenon about the multicultural relationship in a residential setup as a phenomenon, which is a case, and also it has a boundary. I will explain to you in the following slide. And here, there is a bounded system according to Creswell, Merriam, and Inn. And there is an in-depth description analysis of the particular case in the study. Now, as I said, here is the case. The case is a multicultural residential setup, and you can see the boundary within which this particular phenomenon lies. Now, there are 6 types of case studies, but I have chosen the descriptive and exploratory case study. And for the unit of analysis, I have used single holistic case study. Now, the research setting is Christian educational institutions, student families of different disciplines in tertiary level, international Adventist higher education institution, and in the Philippines. And the sample size and sampling procedure, they were purposive sampling because they are the ones to deal and to contribute towards the phenomenon to be studied, as you can see over here in this diagram. Now, the criteria for the institution selected, it should be a Christian institution. Likewise, it should have multicultural students to be in the Philippines, and that was the criteria for the institution. For the participants, they are the students, they are the Adventist students of Adventist graduate program, and also they stay in the campus with their families. And the data collection methods, in-depth interviews were made, focus group discussions were made, document analysis, observation, and field notes. Data collection, it went through the following procedure of ERB, collecting an endorsement from the graduate school, seeking permission from the institution to collect data. And for data analysis framework, we use Miriam's framework 2009 to first initially to do the coding process, first coding, then the second cycle of coding, then categorizing, theming, and coming with the final interpretation of the themes. We also had the rigorosity followed in the research by following the trustworthiness, where the credibility, dependability, transferability, conformability was formed. The ethical consideration, these are the following steps being used in the research. And the data analysis matrix, you can see the advantages, disadvantages, and the recommendations were studied from different data source to do the triangulation matrix for this study. Now, going into the findings, advantages of multicultural residential setup, we have found that benevolence is one of the key factor. Now, what is benevolence over here? Now, this is how explanation from the observation. You can see OBS observation, page 1. Thomas is a pseudonym, the false name, said there is no quarrel among the residents. While John said, John is also a pseudonym from focus group, he said we adjust with each other very well. And also during the interview, someone said that I have no problem with lots of adjustment. So these are the triangulation of the same information given, responses given, which matches with the literature that also suggests it is critical to sensitize education institution administrators and teachers to come about with the importance of inclusive education, where adjustment is very important. Now, I just explained one of the findings. So the findings I will explain in my words because of the time constraint. Academic staff support. Again, from the data, they have clearly mentioned that the teachers and the non-teaching staff were always around to help them get settled with any issues, if at all it has raised between different cultural groups of families staying in a place. Student services, the services given from the student services department were always catering to their needs. If they were looking for one step, they went more than one step for them. And student personality, since it is a tertiary institution, the student personality was well matured for them to have more of understanding and adjustment. And also the institutional student purpose led to for them to have a wonderful adjustment living, because it is a spiritual and an institution where the goal is to live peacefully. Lastly, community integrity programs organized by the administration helped the residential people to have more of mutual understanding to live in peace. And these are the disadvantages. People went through cultural shock initially. That is true. People coming from all major divisions. In this institution, we have more than 60 different countries represented. 60 countries means every second person is a person from a different country. So it is 1 in 3 or 1 in 4, I could say, you are meeting with someone from a different country. And cultural shock, they come with different culture, and it is a great thing. It itself is a study. And the language deficiency, we think we know how to speak English, but English is also spoken in different ways, and also it has different meanings. There are also different actions which could be understood and also misunderstood. Spiritual identity. Yes, the way we think that we are conducting ourselves in a spiritual atmosphere is also different across different cultural setup. And programs that divide. What do you mean by programs that divide? Sometimes when people are in a PhD program, especially in seminary or in a business, they consider themselves to be a little bit different from each other because of the amount of money they pay for the program. So this was a negative case that came out or emerged out of the study. And also predestined attention. Some people were given more attention because they seem to have a proper English background for their education. So they are seen to be smarter students than the others who did not come from English speaking background. There are two important recommendations from the study. One is the institution need to take care of the cultural identity, and also value should be instilled in approaching the different cultural groups irrespective of their background, their language, and other things. And secondly, differentiated instruction should be catered to by the teachers according to the needs of the students from different cultures. Now, when these may not be directly related to the residential setup. However, the problem ends in the classroom. So many times the students, they find their residential setup as not the place to solve the issues, but they find their place in their classroom as a place to solve the issues. Therefore, these recommendations for the administration to cater to the problems of the multicultural residential students. In conclusion, looking into the questions regarding the advantages, disadvantages, and the recommendations, all those were discussed, and there were 4 proposed elements to depend on: intercultural sensitivity, integration, separation, assimilation, and also marginalization. Results could be applied in a limited way where participants are found in similar contexts. And these are very well contextualized to the institution where the research was done. Since it is a qualitative research study, we cannot generalize it to any other institution which do not have a similar context. If at all it has a similar context, it is also possible that this could be applied. Therefore, these conclusions brought an end to the filling the gap of the theoretical as well as the knowledge gap of this particular study. Some of the selected references for the study, which also they had other references. Thank you.
Okay, let's see if there are any questions in the chat box. What could be the reason that the mean score among the middle-aged group are less than 26 to 30 and 46 and above? This is the question for the first. Yeah.
Question.
Mr. Hame?
Yes, sir. If you look at, I've divided in the questionnaire the age group 25 below and 26 to 30 and so on and so forth, and then 46 and above. This is a good question. Why is the mean score, they are very similar, the age group between 26 to 30 and 46 and above. The reason is we're dealing with, keeping in mind, we're dealing with primary teachers here. And literature says that, primary teachers face more stress because comparing to other secondary teachers and higher secondary, because they not only come to teach, but they also have to do a lot of management, class management, because they're dealing with kids. Now, those that have between the age group of 25 to 30 have just started joining work. And for most of them, the stress comes from managing the students. Okay. So that's why the mean scores are high. And for those that are above 46, again, they are primary teachers. So they have reached a certain age where they have received more roles and responsibilities. And that's the reason why the mean score is also high for that particular age group. Now, talking about, I think it's similar. I think the next question that I saw, it's similar. Why is the salary range of those who receive less than 10,000 and those who receive more than 30,000? Why are the mean score similar? It is a very similar answer. For those that have just joined work, they receive less than 10K. And because of the salary range, that's a main factor why they have high mean scores and the stress is high. Whereas for those who receive more than 30K, the responsibilities, again, they have more responsibilities. Some of them are primary teachers and are also principals or headmasters or headmistress. So they have more roles and responsibilities, thus the mean scores are higher.
Okay, thank you.
So if I may ask a question also.
Second. Same question. Same. Mr. Hame, one more question to you.
Okay. Yes, this is again a very good question. I've been asked this question before. You've mentioned several games which we used to play during childhood, right? Are you suggesting that teachers should go back to those childhood days and engage in those games? Do you think adults will feel comfortable to engage in some games? Keeping in mind the title of the study, we're dealing with tribal primary teachers who have practiced these kind of games. And of course, it's most of the games that were practiced during childhood. And one of the questions that even during the interviews and the questionnaires that I've asked is it feasible and practical? Are these games practical? I've listed all the about 20 plus traditional forms of recreation. And most of the recreations, the teacher has responded that, yes, it is still feasible and practical, and we can still use them. However, there are certain games that requires a large space or that requires certain training that they may not be able to do. Those are, of course, limited. But most of the games and the traditional forms of recreation are feasible and possible for most of these teachers.
I have a question, sir, if I may be allowed.
Please.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Hame. It's very interesting, when I listen to your presentation. However, on the same slide, which you had shown, and there was, there for teachers having different range of salary, but their occupational stress was still moderate. So, did you try to find out if the mean difference was significant? Because, though the salary range is quite, the gap is very big, yet we still face the same moderate rate of occupational stress. So did you go to find that?
Yes, the limitations of the study is because it's a pilot study. I have only about 69 participants. So the data is not enough to actually, determine a statistical significance. Whereas in the main study that I have, there is a big significance when it comes to the salary range, the years of experience. I have about 800 participants. So in the actual study. So it shows a big significance there when it comes to these certain variables. But since this is a pilot study, it doesn't really show much of that significance statistically.
Second presenter, and briefly let us look at those questions.
There were many, sir.
What is your research design? How did you come up with your findings? What was your data analysis framework? And how did you triangulate to confirm your findings? I think it covers all your presentation.
all the methodology.
It covers
okay,
everything
anyway,
you have presented to us, but
yes.
Confine yourself to just 1 minute, please.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. my research study, as I said, started very small. However, there is a need that we follow a proper methodology. The study is a qualitative study. I had confined myself, since the tool which I had used for this design is a very small tool. I would say that it is, it's a collective cases, and had been a collective cases of all these different students, and they had all given one or two answers. So all these students had given one or two answers. So so I would say it is a collective of cases, but it was not in depth. It was not in depth. So I would say it is a kind of a descriptive. But when it comes to data analysis, I had used content analysis, where I had tried to quote and put them into different categories, as I have shown in the findings. And some said that you have come up with so much positivity in relation to my findings. I would say I have not reached my limits yet. I had just interacted with my own students. Had I gone to the whole 2,500 students, the saturation had not reached anywhere. So I need a long way to go to reach that saturation, and see if there are more than all these values which I had come up with in my findings. Thank you. So we cannot hear you.
Okay, what I was saying is, it is a small beginning, you say, but it is a wonderful beginning. And it will take us a long way. And I think it will be the most useful study under the present circumstances.
Thank you so much, sir.
Promised us that he would be a counselor, a mighty God and a prince of peace. He promised us that he would be a father and would love us with a love that would not cease.
Well, I've tried it, and I've found his promises are true. He's everything he said that he would be. The finest words I know could not begin to tell just what Jesus really means to me.
For he's more wonderful than my mind can conceive. He's more wonderful than my heart can believe. He goes beyond my heart
think of the King of Glory would come to live within the heart of man.
And I marvel just to know He really loves me when I think of who He is and who I am. For He's more wonderful than my mind can conceive. He's more wonderful than my heart can believe. He goes beyond my highest hopes and fondest dreams. He's everything that my soul ever longed for, everything that He promised, and so much more. Is more than amazing, more than marvelous, more than miraculous could ever be. He's more than wonderful. That's what Jesus is
To me,
He's everything that my soul ever longed for, everything that He promised, and so much more. Is more than amazing, more than
That's what my
marvelous, more than miraculous could ever be. He's more than wonderful, more than wonderful. That's what Jesus
that's
is.
what Jesus is. Oh, He's more than
Thank you. This time, I would like to invite Dr. Ronnie Verghese, the Dean of the Division of Commerce and Business. Thank you, sir, for joining us. This is your time.
Thank you. A very good day to everybody. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce the next presenter, Mr. Chinta Riki Kripakar Rao, whose topic is a study on neuromarketing and its measure of implicit consumer attitude towards packaging with respect to Spicer College products and services. Chinta Riki Kripakar Rao was born and brought up at Spicer, Pune. He completed his Bachelor's of Computer Applications under Savitribai Phule Pune University and his Master's in Business Administration, specializing in marketing at Spicer Adventist University. Presently, he is working as a research analyst at Manlytics Business to Business Information Technology Enabled Services Private Limited. Ricky enjoys biking, traveling, painting, music, and helping people. Ricky, the time is yours now.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ricky, and I'm excited to share with you all about my research, which is titled A Study on Neuromarketing and its Measure of Implicit Consumer Attitude Towards Packaging with respect to Spicer College products and services. Basically, my research is about neuromarketing and packaging. Let me give you a brief introduction about neuromarketing. The term neuromarketing was initially coined by Gerald Zoltman in the year 1990. In simple words, neuromarketing is the application of neuroscience to marketing. Now, why is neuromarketing needed? If you look at traditional marketing research methods such as surveys or focus groups, companies spend a lot of money in this traditional research methods to understand the consumer attitude or consumer behavior towards brand, products, packaging, advertisements, colors, celebrities, or various other aspects. And when participant is asked a question, not always a question is answered truthfully. Not that the participant is lying, but it could be that in their subconscious level they have a different preference in which they are not aware of, or it could be maybe they want to present a better self-image, or maybe they just want to be polite, or any other reason it could be. And let me give you an example of a very famous experiment, which is called the Pepsi Challenge in the 70s, where the participants were blindfolded and asked to taste Pepsi and Coke and to choose to prefer one. And most of the time, when they were blindfolded, the participants chose Pepsi over Coke. And when they were left free, their eyes were open, they always preferred Coke over Pepsi. And this is one of the example which is used to tell that people are not often aware of what their mind or the subconscious level mind actually prefers. And that is when neuromarketing comes to play. Neuromarketing aims to discover how consumers' brain work and how we can get that insight to promote brands both at the promotional level and the design level. Neuromarketing adds a scientific dimension to marketing and advertising. It is based on conducting laboratory experiments using the scientific method to gain knowledge about relationship between the brain and the buyer's decisions. There are different techniques researchers use to conduct neuromarketing, and some are EEG, which is electroencephalograph, and fMRI, which is functional magnetic resonance imaging, and eye tracking, facial expression monitoring, implicit reaction time, etc. All of these tests are used to understand the emotional and the cognitive response of the participants towards a marketing stimuli. And the results of these tests are used to learn more about the mental process behind the consumer's purchasing decisions. The objective of my research was to find if Spicer College products and services was effective enough in delivering their value proposition to their consumers through the packaging. Spicer College products and services located in Pune, and they produce various soy products, tofu, and jam, grape juice, etc. And in my research, I used two different techniques to draw out my results. The first one was I conducted a survey. I conducted a survey among 50 respondents, and the survey resulted a very positive attitude or a positive response of the consumers towards the packaging of Spicer's products. And I conducted among the same group a second test, which is one of the neuromarketing tests called the implicit association test. And the implicit association test is a scientific technique developed to collect unconscious information from the consumers about their hidden preferences towards brands, products, ads, packaging, or anything else by measuring the time that takes for an individual to classify concepts. Let me just show you an example about implicit association test related to packaging. On the screen, you can see two images where package A is paired with a word like premium, and package B is paired with a word like cheap. Next, there's a series of words that appear on the screen as a stimuli, and participants press one button if the stimulus belongs with the group on the left, and a different one if it belongs to the group on the right. The concepts then switch sides, and the process is repeated multiple times. The response is timed, and if consumers respond more quickly and accurately when package A is paired with premium than when package B is, we can say that package A conveys premium quality better than package B. So a similar test was conducted, and the results of this test were quite contrary to what came out in the survey. In the survey, people were positive towards the packaging of Spicer College products and service, but when I have conducted the implicit association test, most of the respondents had a negative feeling towards the packaging of Spicer College products and services, and therefore my research concluded with the results that Spicer College products and services were not effective enough in conveying their value proposition to the consumers. And this is about my research. Thank you.
Okay, we may ask Ricky questions after the other presenters when they are done. At this time, I would like to call upon Dr. Rekha Rao, our final moderator for this conference. Dr. Rekha Rao, the Dean of the Division of Arts and Social Sciences. Ma'am, this is your time.
Okay. Greetings to you all. At this time, I would like to thank and congratulate our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Sanjeevan Asud, and the Research Director, Mr. Santosh Kumar, for organizing this international virtual conference. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce the second and the third presenters of this session. Our second presenter is Miss Verkisha Graham from University of Southern Caribbean. She holds a Bachelor's of Science in Behavioral Science from Andrews University and a Master's of Arts degree in Criminology with Criminological Psychology from Kingston University, London. She is currently studying Master's of Science in Counseling Psychology at the University of the Southern Caribbean. Ms. Verkisha Graham has also coordinated research and evaluation activities at Trinidad Camp Tobago Police Academy. Her areas of research are prison rehabilitation and online counseling. She will be presenting on the topic entitled Online Counseling Assessing Attitudes Among Millennials. Our third presenter for this session is Pastor Aunshi Samsoko Varekan from Spicer Adventist University. Pastor A.S. Varekan is a graduate of Spicer Memorial College who held various academic and administrative positions. He worked as lecturer in Spicer Memorial College and as assistant professor in Northeast Adventist College. Since 2014, Pastor A.S. Varekan is serving as head of the Department of Economics and also as controller of examinations in Spicer Adventist University. He will be presenting on the topic entitled rapport and attitudes of administrators and employees towards students is critical for growth and sustenance of an academic institution.
Hi, all. Greetings. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present to you today. Let me just share my screen here. Okay, so I'm Patricia Graham, and I will present today on online counseling, assessing attitudes among millennials. Now, we know where the world is today, right? We're in a COVID-19 pandemic, and we're seeing deaths around us, and it's a very tragic scene. And in Trinidad and Tobago, while I was examining the culture and the climate, and asking myself, how am I feeling? Falling in the category of a millennial, is there readily available resources for me to talk with? And I'm asking myself, okay, what's happening around me? Where are the millennials running to? And so it sparked the interest into looking at the attitudes among millennials, and the counseling attitudes among millennials in Trinidad and Tobago. So this research is geared towards creating awareness of individuals' attitudes and unpacking various online counseling issues. We seek to explore the attitudes of millennials towards online counseling. And the rationale of this study is to examine the counseling's accessibility, willingness, and usefulness of online counseling in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. So we have two major objectives, and I will also furnish you with two of these research questions. So of course, one, to examine the attitudes of millennials towards online counseling during the COVID-19 pandemic. And secondly, to identify the benefits and challenges of online counseling during the pandemic. My two research questions: what are the attitudes of millennials regarding online counseling amid the pandemic, and what are the benefits and challenges identified? So you can see the research takes that ontological perspective as we look at really discovering, the nature of what's happening regarding counseling. According to Kingston 2004, millennials are defined as individuals born between the 1980s and early 2000s. So we're looking at around the age group of 18, maybe 20 to the 40-year-olds. And yes, I do fall into that category. According to Mishna Bogo and Sawyer 2015, there has been a radical increase over the past decade in the use of information and communication technology within the millennial generation, and they assume that this will grow in time. Another research stated that the available literature has shown online counseling to be beneficial for some clients, but still that body of knowledge has not yet established online counseling as a truly effective mode. Right? Another thing that I look at is the name online counseling. Within our culture in Trinidad and Tobago, the reason why I use online counseling is because it's readily available and it's used more often, but there is cyber counseling, there is also teletherapy, so we see different jargons as it relates to counseling coming out. There are various modes of counseling as well. We have video conferencing, and you can use apps such as Zoom or Google Meet, and then we have we have apps that you can use just to chat instead of talking to someone. So we really see that change from the traditional mode of counseling, which is the face-to-face approach, and we're seeing that being done virtually. So the methodology is convenience sampling, and this method really, looked at gathering data from the available pool of resources, those that were around me. And I used an online evaluation instrument via Google Forms. And this instrument was administered to 44 participants, and it contains 20 questions using a 5-point Likert scale, and it was rated from not comfortable to very comfortable. And so we have that mixed method. So I use that quantitative, but I also put some qualitative in there, in that I use thematic analysis as I look at the various themes that came out from the open-ended sections, So they were given that open-ended questions for your additional comments and concerns. And you can see the various themes later on in the presentation coming through, right? And they were able to express their feelings and experiences with online counseling. Let's get into the good stuff here. Let's look at the results. So I looked at the demographics, and we can see that the majority of participants were married, and they fell between the age category of the 29 to the 34 age bracket. I asked them, have you ever received counseling? We could see 50% saying, yes, I did, and the other 50% saying no. Now, you can see here, how often do you access the internet? So there was a space for additional comments, and I got an everyday response, but every day is the same as daily. So we can see 100% saying that they access the internet every day. My question is, millennials, yes, we access that internet every day, but what are we doing? When we feel fearful, etc., what are we doing there? So this study really highlighted the time and the availability of things that we can do, saying that we are on the internet every day. We are on our phones every day anyway. So we are looking at assessing the comfort. How comfortable are you with talking to a counselor? Majority of participants said that they were comfortable to very comfortable. Some people were undecided. I'm not too sure about it. And they were asked, do you believe that online counseling can be useful? Majority again said yes, right? And we still have those in the middle saying maybe, maybe not. Would you be willing to access online counseling services during this pandemic? Again, we've seen the majority coming through. Yes, yes. And then we have the maybes following right behind. Another thing that I asked, another question that I asked, do you think online counseling with a counselor you have not met in person can offer effective therapy? And we see 50% saying yes. It can offer effective therapy, but some people are gonna say, I'm not too sure, maybe not. So let's get into the analysis. So as you can see, the data show that 54.5% of the respondents found that it was very useful, and 95.5% said that they would even recommend it to their family and their friends. So these are some of the other things that came out from the study. 93.2% said that they have never received online counseling. Now remember, we saw where 50% said that they received counseling, and this is the face-to-face mode of counseling, but the majority of persons didn't receive online counseling. So we see that big disparity for that virtual mode of counseling. 55.9% said that they were very comfortable with talking to a counselor. Looking at the benefits and challenges, some of the benefits that came out, we see that the majority of participants thought that one of the benefits is that it will increase the scheduling flexibility, so they can schedule their sessions for various times, reduce expenses in that they won't have to travel to that counselor for a face-to-face session, so they save on gas and extra costs. They found the fact that they didn't have to leave their home as an advantage. You can access counseling services on your devices just at home. However, 47.7% found that it gave them more access to their therapist. And I think this we need to look some more into, because if you're saying that I'm seeing a high level of agreeableness towards the online counseling, but yes, and I'm seeing 47.7% found that it gave them more access to their therapist. I cannot assume this number to be higher, but the research would have showed me that I got less than 50%, less than the half mark, found that it gave them more access to their therapist. Some of the challenges, limited access to the internet. So we know that internet is a big issue. How reliable is your internet service provider? How reliable is your internet? Do you have to use data if your session is going on for an hour? Do you have sufficient internet access to last you throughout? One of the challenges that also came out from the thematic analysis was that persons said that they may be less open with a counselor virtually as opposed to face to face. You know, they feel less intimate. And that we can see at the next point, lack of physical connection and face to face interaction. You know, in our culture, we like that. We like to see people, because we feel more present within that situation that I'm telling you all my problems. And I know that you're right there in front of me listening to me. And I don't have any barriers in front of me, you know, so we can see your devices acting as a barrier. Another challenge is that some persons would have apprehensions towards privacy and confidentiality. They want to make sure that no one can access, you know, that session online. No one can hack into, no one can secretly record their sessions, no one can take screenshots of their messages. You know, so that was a very big challenge that came out. So some of our recommendations from the research now, our ministry has already implemented some free counseling services and also engaged in some educational campaigns, and we advocate for more of that. I advocate for more of that. So if we really increase education campaigns on the feasibility and privacy of online counseling, and that we let them know, research has shown that it is indeed something that you can trust, you know, via Zoom, their encryption. So you can have that privacy and confidentiality for virtual counseling. You can highlight the ever-changing technological era. This is where the world is going now, as we saw the research is stating, that is advancing, you know, that, hey, you can access counseling services free, access, that is, and immediate help with a touch of a button, right? So it's readily accessible. And some of the resources, as I close off, as I go into my conclusion, listening Oasis Wellness Piece. Now, this is not just for Trinidad and Tobago, and I put this up here really so everyone can access it, you know, and you can reach out to me thereafter. And this is a free site where you can chat, where you can be paired with a counselor or coach. Really, if you're going through stress, etc., from the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, you have access to these tools. And in Trinidad and Tobago, through our family services and TT Connect, you know, millennials do have that opportunity to access free counseling services. Thank you so much. And as I conclude, I just want to just highlight that this research sought to discover the benefits and challenges of online counseling and the agreeableness of millennials as it regards to the mode of counseling, virtual counseling. And the results indicated that even though most of our participants have not experienced online counseling, they believe that it is useful and convenient due to its many benefits such as flexibility, lower transportation costs, and accessibility. However, because this is so new, right, further research is needed, especially in the context of our culture, so that online counseling can be widely made known to the millennials and Trinidad and Tobago, and thereby the general public. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. Next, we'll proceed for the third presentation by Pastor A. Sorekan, sir.
Hey, good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everybody present here for this conference at Spicer University. Pleasure to meet all of you, and I would like to thank my preceding presenters. It's an amazing presentation, and I have learned much. Thank you for sharing your findings with us. To me, the findings were crucial. The findings were important, and I think that is the crux of any research. This afternoon, it's my pleasure to present to you a small paper that I have done. It's a well-known fact, but many times we take it for granted, and then we think, I'll share you my screen, and yeah, okay, yeah. Well, as I have said before, it's a well-known fact that it is important to take the students in our premises very important and make sure that they are highly valued, but many times it is ignored. So my study this afternoon that I would like to present is what is the extent of this rapport and attitude of administrators and employees towards the student? Is it critical to the growth and sustenance of an institution? Right? And so with that said, I would like to move to the statement made by the father of our nation, Mahatma Gandhi. And I would like to present to you at the very onset of this presentation that I would like to look at it from the business perspective, looking at institution as business organization and the students as our customers. Mahatma Gandhi have rightly said long ago, a customer is the most important visitor in our premises. He is not dependent on us, we are dependent on him. He is not an interruption in our work, he is the purpose of it. He is not an outsider of our business, he is part of it. We are not doing him a favor. He is, in serving him, he is doing us a favor by giving us the opportunity to do so. You see, ladies and gentlemen, we got to remember that when we are doing business, institution as a business organization, we have to remember that we are creating utility. Utility is something that has the ability to satisfy our needs and wants. And in providing services or goods, what is important for the business organization is to create utility that will satisfy the needs and wants of the customer. And once the product or service is in the market, its survival and continual service will greatly depend on the satisfaction of the customers, innovation and human touch of the producer or supplier through its direct or indirect stakeholders. This will create goodwill, brand loyalty, and positive customer publicity for further expansion of the markets. See, the business unit is not only to satisfy the physiological need of the customers, but it is also more importantly to satisfy the emotional needs of the customers. And in this, the customers are the students. That the customers should fall in love and feel belong to that brand of institution that you and I established. And once the customer is satisfied, and once the customer comes into our premises, it is of paramount importance to ensure that the customer is satisfied physiologically and emotionally, or else he will leave the premises dissatisfied and he will engage in negative publicity. Okay? A satisfied customer will share and do everything possible to the last lane and last mile, free of cost, and you don't have to do anything or invest anything. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what is the objective of this small research that I did? Was to find out the significance of the attitude of office staffs, teachers, and administrators towards the students and its impact on the growth of the institution. It was also to highlight that attitude matters more than infrastructural facilities in human relationship. And I think education is all about human relationship. And therefore, what I did was, in this given situation where our movement is restricted, what I have done is I created a Google form and then send it to everywhere possible. And so the participant is from all over the world. There are participants from Thailand, from Philippines, from America, from Africa, and from India. And the participants in this survey was all those who have gone through institution of higher education. And there were 494 respondents. As I have said, the research here is to find out the significant contribution of our attitude as office staffs, teachers, and administrators towards our students who are our customers. Right? And so I have used this famous hierarchy that I'm sure most of you are familiar with. This is the Maslow hierarchy, the hierarchy of needs. And you find, if you look at this hierarchy, you find that the physiological needs of a person is at the lowest, it is at the base. The safety needs, the love and belonging, esteem and self-actualization is at the higher needs. The question is, where is the deficit needs and where is the being needs? The physiological needs is the easy part. But higher up, safety needs, love and belonging, esteem and self-actualization is that being fulfilled for our customers, students in our institution is where the question lies. And so I want to present to you, ladies and gentlemen, this afternoon, I want you to know that the students, when a student enters the corridor of an institution, his or her search for knowledge is just a means to achieve the end of happiness, satisfaction, and self-realization or self-actualization. The infrastructural facilities provided is like the packaging of a product or service. But the inside is the knowledge. How do they get the knowledge and how satisfied they are will depend on that human touch and relationship that we build with our students. Do we guide them towards self-actualization, or are we just providing their deficit needs or physiological needs? Remember, it can be met anywhere else. Remember, we as institutions have no choice except the student. But the students have multiple institutions to choose from. Why would they come? Why would they promote our institution unless they meet their deficit needs as well as the being needs? An institution guides them towards self-actualization. And so I asked very simple questions to all those students who responded. And so my first question was, what are the preferred nature and personalities? And you look at the chart or the pie there, and you see, as a student, what attracted you to your college or university? And you see, 61% of the respondents said it is the nature of the teachers and student relationship. The location and the environment is 39%. Surprisingly, the infrastructural facilities has nothing to do with the attraction towards the students to the institution. How surprising. Sometimes we put our priorities in the infrastructural facilities and then we ignore our attitude and rapport towards the students. You look at the second pie, you find what attribute those teachers or administrators do you abhor or dislike the most? 15% of them say strict and stern. They don't like. Shabby and not qualified, 16% only. But something that came up was proud, arrogant, disrespectful, indifferent teachers and administrator is something that students really dislike and abhor. Look at this next pie. As a student, what nature did you expect from your teachers and administrators? You know, the students, did not expect. They don't expect the teachers and administrators to be friendly, to be caring, to be helpful, to be cheerful. I'm sure all of us have gone through that, and I'm sure we are aware about it. But 63% of them say they don't expect administrators and teachers to be rude, arrogant, indifferent, proud, disrespectful. As a student, who among the teachers and administrators do you love and remember and respect the most? We think qualification has a lot to do, but remember this. I was very surprised. 13% of the respondents said they remember the qualified teachers. They also remember 8% said well-dressed and groomed. But 79% of the respondents said those who love and care and are always available, cheerful, are the teachers whom they respect the most. What are the elements that matters the most to a student, which is more important in learning? And I think education is all about learning. Institution is all about learning, transferring of knowledge, to put that into practice so that our students become wise. You look at that and you find 27% of the students say qualified teachers and excellent physical infrastructure facilities are important for learning. You find 73% of the respondents who have gone through higher education said they did not say infrastructure is not important, but they said what is more important is, yes, qualified teachers, but administrators and teachers who have humane touch. I hope that is well reflected there. The next thing is qualified and efficient teachers, staffs and administrators with positive attitudes such as understanding, caring, loving, cheerful, helpful, and friendly nature by far is much more attractive and important for the long-term growth of the college and university. 7% of them did not agree with that. 93% of those who have gone through institutions say, yes, that is more important for the long-term growth of the college and university. The last was the response to positive attitude exhibited and accorded to students. I asked the question, will you recommend to others your college or university if the staffs, teachers, and administrators are rude, arrogant, proud, indifferent, and disrespectful? 15% of them said yes. In spite of them behaving like this, we will still recommend. But 85% of them said no. How do we expect our institutions to grow when 85% of our students who go through our corridor say, if teachers, staffs, and administrators behaves and have this attitude, we will never recommend. You look at the next table. Will you recommend others to your college or university if the staffs, teachers, and administrators are friendly, helpful, caring, respectful, cheerful, etc.? 1% said no. 99% of them said yes. The last, arrogant, disrespectful, indifferent, rude, proud staffs, teachers, and administrators drive students away and make them to engage in negative publicity of the college or university. 1% of them said no. 99% of them said yes. Educators present here this afternoon, let us take note of this. Let us remember that our customers, the students, are the best ambassadors, most effective ambassadors of our institutions. I would like to make a mention here and make few statements. I have about 2 minutes, and that is, it is important that to a student that the physical facilities satisfies the base deficit needs. But it is our humane touch, our relationship with them, our attitude towards them is what counts. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to remember this from my findings and from this paper presentation, that it is easier to attract customers, students to the university. The difficult part is to retain them and use them as our ambassadors. It will all depend on our rapport and our attitude towards them. The interest and health of the institution should be paramount and priority over the toxic, individualistic, egoistic, and parasitic attitude and nature of some of the employees. It is worth sacrificing such individual in the interest of the institution. Ladies and gentlemen, as pointed out by Dr. Maria Antoni Raj, Dr. Raghuram, Professor Virapan, he said, fair treatment to all the present and former students is very necessary because of the fact that they act like unpaid brand ambassadors of the institution. Educational institute needs to adopt the student-centric approaches to remain unbeaten in the turbulent market. Let us remember, ladies and gentlemen, educators, that students have substitutes available, but we have no substitute as institution but the students. Unless our rapport and our attitude towards the students are right, we are going to suffer. My last closing statement is, the whole purpose of education is defeated if our priorities are not set right. And what is our most important priority from this finding is our attitude and our rapport towards the student. And if we only certifies but fails to qualify and educate the students by example, how we behave towards them is what will be observed and learned by them, ladies and gentlemen. As Sudha Murthy rightly said, good relationships, compassion, and peace of mind is much more important than achievements, awards, and degrees or money. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, and this is my closing statement, the way we treat and relate to the students will determine whether we produce monsters with education or educated human citizens to manage the resources of the generations to come. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
Dr. Rekha, if there is any question that you would like to place for the presenters to answer.
Thank you so much, Pastor Varekin, for that wonderful and powerful presentation. And at this time, I would like to ask, I would like to find out if any questions are there from the audience. For the first presenter, the question, okay, Ricky, okay, were you able to make, it's not where, were you able to make any recommendations, or what would be your suggestions concerning the packaging for Spicer College products that would be more consumer attractive?
Am I audible?
Yes.
According to the suggestions received from the test, the main suggestions were regarding the sustainability, talking about eco-friendly materials used for packaging, and secondly about using attractive colors. The colors which are going to be used for packaging it was suggested that they would be much more attractive. And the third important observation out of the results was that Spicer College Products and Service packaging lacked in providing information, which is very important for customers to know. And the fourth important observation is that the presentation of logo as it's important, which represents the brand. So these are the four recommendations which were given to Spicer College Products and Services regarding their packaging.
The next question for the second presenter. No, sorry, for the first presenter, same to Ricky only. Is it ethical to take advantage of consumers' unconscious behavior for the sake of profit? Is neuromarketing an ethical marketing strategy, especially from a Christian perspective? Very interesting question.
Yes, a very interesting question. Thank you for that question. The test was taken with consent of the people, whoever participated, they given the consent. And regarding the ethical point of view, it is debatable. But when it comes to companies who are investing a large amount of money for advertising or to reach out their target audience, it is essential for them to know the facts rather than depend upon opinions, which might not always be true. And companies that take up this test go with a procedure that is followed by taking consent of the people and making it more ethical. And from the Christian point of view, I think there is nothing wrong. We are not taking any, this is my opinion, we're not going to take any information that is going to hinder or going to cause trouble for anyone, but rather clear out the concepts instead of building the foundation on opinions which are not sure. Companies are just going to build their foundation on something that is true, and the facts are going to be true. And by this, it's only going to help the companies or the people to reach out to the consumers even much better, and consumers' needs are met and their needs are fulfilled. So I think my opinion is it is ethically fine unless and until we are keeping up with the standards and our intentions.
Okay. Thank you for that wonderful answer. Next question goes for the second presenter. Okay, on online counseling, this topic, I think. India is a land of shame and honor culture, and therefore seeking counseling could be challenging. How can we provide help in such cultures?
Thank you for that question, and it's such a relevant question. My answer to that is twofold. One, in that we change the language, the jargon of counseling. You don't necessarily need to call it counseling. And that's what we do at the Listening Oasis Wellness Suite. We call it coaching. So we run alongside you, we work with you, so we soften up that language, and that you access services where you have a friend, you have that peer who is willing to listen to you, so we change that jargon of counseling and we call it coaching, which looks at the social and emotional wellness of a person. The second part of that is that we use education to facilitate change in attitudes, and hopefully and possibly change in culture. But we know that could take more weeks, so we start within the classroom. We start right here, right now. We start by letting others know that, hey, this is the culture we live in, and we know that. However, we can try changes through like peer counseling or peer coaching. We can start within the classroom. We start with teachers. We start with facilitators, and we really create that space as we come into the knowledge. We come into that understanding of what it means to be there for someone. So we use principles that we already live by, and we use that as avenues to provide help, to provide a listening ear for others. And that's how we can tackle that within your culture, within that cultural context. And I do hope I answered your question.
Yeah, very good answer. Thank you so much. The next question is for the third presenter. Can we collect data from such a wide area? Don't you think that the data may vary depending on the contexts? This is for the third presenter.
Well, yes, I would agree that it may vary, but it was a very general study just to find out if the attitude and the rapport of the administrators, the office staff, and the teachers towards the student have impacted towards their response and the, the the satisfaction of the students of that institution and their aftermath uh, reaction to that. And so it was just done on to a very wide market. Yes, but it can vary. But I think those are different areas of studies that we can do. But I think it also reflects that it need not be confined to one area. There seemed to be a consensus all around from that study, from that very wide respondents that we have received, that yes, the attitude of the staff, the teachers, and the administrator is very important, and it is not confined to just one culture, one place, but it is true.
Another question for Pastor Varek and this is the last question. Okay, in government-run institutions, I have observed they are more rude and indifferent attitudes. I think they have more rude and indifferent attitude, but still students flock for admission in such institution. How will you explain this phenomenon?
All right, I think I will respond to this from our Indian context and from the perspective of economics. And I think it would be wrong to generalize that all government-run institutions are rude and indifferent. I'm sure there are many institutions and many individuals in those institutions who are very humane. But yes, from the Indian context and from the economic perspective, there could be many other factors, and the study did not look into that, but I think it can be another area of interest for study. But I think from the economic perspective and from our Indian context, the reason could be that the parents are not in an economical position to finance and support their children to private institutions, which generally are more expensive and which economically many of our parents are not able to afford private institutions. And in the Indian context, as I have said, you will find that many villages around the country does not have any institution beside the government institution. So the affordability and the accessibility, I think, could be the factor towards that.
Thank you so much for all your answers for those questions. At this time, I would like to thank all the participants, all the presenters for their presentations, for their participation, as well as contribution to the field of science. And I'd also like to congratulate Mr. Santosh Kumar, the research director, for organizing such a wonderful conference and instilling a research orientation in the faculty and students. Thank you so much, Mr. Santosh. At this time, I would like to hand over to Mr. Santosh. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Rekha, for your kind words. Thank you so much. Thank you. At this time, it is my immense pleasure to take this opportunity to thank the key people who were an integral part of this event. It wouldn't have been possible to organize this conference on my own. And therefore, I would like to begin by thanking the most important person who has been incredibly supportive of all the research affairs at Spicer Adventist University. So I want to sincerely thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Sanjeevan R. Sood, who himself is a visionary, a scholar, and who appreciates scholarly activities at Spicer. I remember him encouraging me and discussing how to improve the research culture at Spicer Adventist University. And when I first approached him to have a virtual international conference, he was excited. And he asked me if he can also present his research paper findings. Unfortunately, due to a huge number of presenters, he decided to give out more opportunities and took his name back. Thank you, sir. Dr. Sanjeevan Arsu, thank you so much for your support, your passion for academics, your vision for the university. Thank you, and I pray that God will bless you with more wisdom to lead Spice Adventist University to a greater heights. Thank you, sir. I would also like to thank Dr. Simon Yesu, the registrar, who is equally a concerned visionary, who often discussed how to empower the Spicer community to do more research. In fact, this week, some 3 or 4 days ago, he called me in the evening, and we had a chat for like 30 minutes discussing how to empower the community here. Dr. Simon closely support the research office and always have been a great support to me. So thank you, sir, Dr. Simon, for your guidance and care for the research office and the university. May God bless you. One day I was evaluating the papers in the examination center, and Pastor A.S. Warekan walked by to me and shared that the Office of Research and Innovation needs to organize a conference on research findings. And the moment I heard it, I was excited. In fact, I was decided that we must organize this program. So I give the credit to Pastor A.S. Warekan, who visioned it. I was just one of the component. We have a number of people to thank for this program. So I'm grateful for the humble support that I have received from our favorite preacher, loving person, caring and compassionate, Pastor A.S. Warekan. Thank you so much for your presentation. It really means a lot, and we see that in your own personality and character. Thank you so much, Pastor. While we are thanking several people, I must thank Dr. Jessin Israel, who gracefully agreed to allow us to use the Zoom platform, his studio, and his team. So thank you, Pastor Dr. Jessin Israel, for being so kind and generous to the research office every single time. May God bless you. I also would like to thank the IT team, the IT support team, Brother Surendra, Brother Murali, Brother Jacob Hassan. I am so thankful for these students who in their various capacities have helped this event to make it a reality. And I would also like to thank all the participants for joining us, all the moderators to accept the invitation to moderate the program. And in a very special way, I thank all the presenters. Kudos to each one of you. Thank you for enlightening our mind to see research in various disciplines and how valuable the findings ultimately affects the society. Dr. Jacques Kaigma, Mrs. Carol Kingston, Miss Suja, Mr. Benjamin Fegan, Mr. Anish Joseph, Mr. William Bells, Mr. Hame Sin, Mr. Ranjit Kingston, Dr. Rulang, Mr. Chinta Rikirao, Miss Verkisha, and Pastor A.S. Warekan. Thank you so much. Thank you for participating and sharing your research work. May the Lord bless each one of you and add many more days in your life that you may prosper to inspire and influence the community around you. Bravo once again. And once again, thank you, everyone. We are not stopping with this event. Very soon, we will announce our next international conference. So stick with us, visit our website, find out the news and events, and we'll be good to go. Now, at this time, I request Pastor A.S. Warekan to close this program with his closing remarks and the closing prayer. Pastor A.S. Warekan.
Yeah, thank you so much once again, Mr. Santosh. I think all of us would like to thank you for the privilege and the platform that you have provided for us to come together and to present and to enrich ourselves and become more wiser in the Lord. I think that is important, that from such experiences, such presentations, and such gathering, I think we should walk and leave this place more wiser than we joined before. Thank you so much once again, ladies and gentlemen. It is our pleasure and it is our gratitude to all of you to have come over here, and God bless you all. Shall we close this with a word of prayer? Loving Father in heaven, the omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, Lord, who are we but sinners? But yet you have loved us and called us into your presence. And if we only fear you, you have promised to bless us with true wisdom. And we pray, Lord, that you will bless us and protect us, cover us with your wings. We pray for every individual present in this conference, for every presenter, that every word said and done here will enrich us and make us become a better person. We pray that you will continue to walk with us, that every little knowledge that we have will be used for your honor and glory. Now, as we leave and part and go our own way, we pray, Lord, that you will walk with us until we meet again. Thank you for calling us into your family, for loving us, and for the promise that you will protect us and love us and bless us according to your infinite wisdom. We pray this in Jesus' name.
Thank you, Pastor. Once again, thank you so much, all of you, for joining in. I will be soon communicating with the presenters through email. And thank you so much, all of you. Be safe.